Hello everyone, if you're new, I just wanted to say, firstly, welcome to the channel, secondly, like, subscribe, of course, usual, and thirdly, I do make competitively focused One Piece card game content over on my Patreon. Check out a link in the description. I'm just going to leave the shilling at that, and onto the video. Cheers. Hello there everyone, welcome back to another video about the One Piece card game. Today I'm going to be talking about my experience at the One Piece Championship Series offline regionals in Milan, which I was able to get top 16 at with Law. So obviously Law is a deck that has been gaining a lot of popularity recently. Basically, I guess people didn't really pay attention to what the English player base didn't really pay attention to what Japan had been cooking in the OP02 format, and it took until Cross, shoutouts to Cross, basically winning a NA event with it sort of seemingly coming out of nowhere, where of course it wasn't out of nowhere. Cross had been, testing Law for a very long time. Lots of us have been playing Law for a while, but when it sees that success in a major event, it pops off everywhere. And Law has exploded in popularity. You're going to be seeing that reflected in my match breakdowns. To be honest, Cross, this is a personal message to you. I hope you're happy because you have made me suffer, and you've made yourself suffer too, because we've been seeing what's been happening in recent events. Taking Law is just rough nowadays for various reasons. But anyway, let's move past that for now. Of course, I played Law, and I was able to get to top 16. So what I'm going to do is, you're probably all here for the deck profile, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And in case any of you are screenshotting, I'm going to put this here, so when you send it around, people know to come to me. And there we go. I'm gonna do that because I want clicks. Let's just adjust this very slightly. There we go. Oh, isn't that better? Lovely. Right, let's go ahead and get into the actual deck. So, this deck is mostly standard, but I do have a little bit of spice. So we've got 4 copies of Blocker Law. I don't think I need to explain why this card is so good, but if you've not played Law before, this is the reason your deck is good. Being able to Law effect to bounce one of your searchers to play a Law, then bounce something else, potentially like a Bonnie or something, and then play back that searcher, cheat out a 3 cost. Like, the fact that for 2 cost you can put out 8 costs worth of value is kind of nuts. And doing that on turn 3 is such an insane power swing in a game that it's usually enough to just win you the game, as long as you haven't completely bricked outside of that. The only decks that can compete are also doing something kind of unfair, like, having a 6k base, or giving their whole board 1k, or cheating out stuff a turn early, right? Like, this is the sort of level of power that you need to keep up with an effect that's this good. For Restand Law, this card is nuts, absolutely cracked. I don't know why we weren't playing 4 of this Restand Law in set 1. It was absolutely insane. It probably would have really helped our kid matchup, so there you go. Yeah, this card, there will be so many games where you just will not see this card. You will not see Blocker Law, and you will be like playing with a Zorro and a Dream. And this Restand Law, combined with that Zorro and a Dream, can somehow get you there. This card is incredible. If you're not playing 4, just trust me and play 4. It is so good. And then I play 1 4-drop Law. This is because I want slightly more top end. Ideally, I would like to up this to 10. The build I played for this was very interesting, and I'll talk more about that in a second. Why it is quite so interesting, but yeah. Basically, you need this because it's searchable with Nami, and it is searchable with Bonnie. It's something you can find, and it's something you can play if you don't have one of your Laws, and it's a turn 2 going second play that doesn't feel horrendous to play. It's just giving you another one of those options. Also, there are other options that don't feel horrendous to play, which we'll go over now. So obviously the double Rush Zorro and the double Starter Deck Zorro. These both also don't feel horrendous to play on turn 3, but obviously, they are smaller. They are vulnerable to certain combos like like Otama Vista, whereas the 6k isn't. You kind of have to pistol it or do something else to it, so there is that. Though, of course, you could put a Don onto the Zorro, and that solves that problem. But yeah, so these are played for basically different matchups. This is when you're going into anything Whitebeard. This card is so good into Whitebeard, but it's also just really good value in general. 1 Don 7k swings are just very nice. And of course, Rush Zorro, a lot of the time, you're not actually attacking with Rush Zorro the turn you play it. You need to be very careful the turns that you are attacking with Rush Zorro, because sometimes you will screw yourself over by letting it be cleared, and you realize you needed that card on board, or you needed that to restand, or there's lots of different situations. But of course, this card in combination with Blocker Law is an insane combo. Attacking with this, you pay 2, you bounce it, you play a Law, you bounce something else, you play out this, you get another swing. Very, very powerful aggression. It just depends on the meta, what you want to be putting in and putting out. Now this, I actually regretted playing ST Law because I didn't play against Whitebeard a single time. So despite it being a very large proportion of the event, I dodged it completely. So this was relatively dead. Obviously, I would have preferred. I probably would have gone 3 and 1. I would still liked having it, but I would have liked to have seen it a little less. But anyway, there we go. That's that. Okay, then for Vistas. I hate Vista. I really hate playing this card. It feels awful. It's not searchable. It's pure luck whether or not you draw it. It feels horrible to play when you're not getting value out of the effect. It's vulnerable to getting Visted itself. But you have to play 4 copies. And the reason is the mirror. And Zoro, but the mirror is more likely to come up than a Zoro matchup nowadays. And I'm telling you, you literally cannot win the mirror consistently if you. Sorry, let me just adjust. You cannot win the mirror consistently if you are not playing this card. Like, it's literally not possible. Yes, you can win occasionally, but on a consistent basis, you will be getting cooked if you do not see this card. You just have to play it. It's like a tax to play in the current meta, which sucks. Because honestly, this space is so tight, and I would so much rather be playing anything other than Vista that would help improve the consistency of the deck. Because the consistency of the deck kind of ended up being my downfall. It wasn't necessarily this build, it was just Law. For Dadan, I can wax lyrical about how broken this card is for days, but basically, Dadan can make your board by finding an army which can find a chopper, right? So this can be 3 cards in one. It can find you 2k counters, but more importantly, it can find you the 2k counters that are really good into certain matchups, right? Otama into Whitebeard is broken. Makino, late game, can just secure wins out of nowhere. I won my last round of Swiss, getting me top 16 by playing out a Dadan, finding a Makino, playing the Makino, tapping the Makino, buffing a Nami, bouncing that, playing a restand Law, restanding my blocker Law, then playing out the Makino again over the Dadan, and buffing up my Nami again, which gave me 2 9k swings when my opponent had only 1 blocker and 2 cards in hand, so it was guaranteeing lethal. So that was the only way for me to do it, and Makino just lets you do that, and having a search for that is insane. Okay, on to the 1-drops then. This is the very, very standard part. For Wani, for Nami, and for Chopper, these are obviously not going anywhere. For Otama, and for Makino. Now, you're probably asking yourself a question. Where is Beige? I don't play Beige. I do not play Beige. And before you say, oh, well, that's why your deck's so inconsistent, I've really not missed it. I've not had an issue with that. The brick hands I get, usually, the card I cut for Beige, the cards I cut for Beige is basically I play Punk Gibson. So my 3 copies of Punk Gibson, these would have been Beiges. Never does this come up in a situation where I would, very rarely, whereas I wish it was a Beige. It almost never happens. Because the problem with these chump blockers is they're so vulnerable to just getting popped by a Vista. They don't really do much in the early game. Sometimes you would much rather have, depending on this format, right? So against Zoro, I would so much rather have a Punk Gibson. It's not even close. And Zoro's a matchup I'm concerned about, so I'm making more choices for that, right? Against Whitebeard, they play Vista. Strawbeard plays Robin, right? They're going to be dealing with these chump blockers, but they also play rush cards, and if they structure things wrong, I can Punk Gibson them and screw them over. Most of the time, an opponent is going to expect double Rad Beam when they see 2 Dons up. They're not going to expect a Punk Gibson, so that can really screw them over. Anyway, that was the justification there. I haven't really missed Beige, but as I say, there's so many ways to build Law that if you want to play Beige, by all means play Beige. This deck list is heavily inspired by a Twitter user who I'm going to mispronounce the name of. I believe it's Nutsun on Twitter. Find my tweet where I did my little tournament report, and I've tagged them in that. They are goated for real, fantastic player. They do really great free Law content, so check it out. Anyway, so this is an event focused build, right? So I'm playing 4 Rad Beam, double pistol, and 3 Gibson. I was playing 4 Gibson before. I literally could not find space for the 4th. So before, if I had my way, Vista is gone. I'm playing an extra Gibson. I'm playing a couple of Sunnykins. I'm playing an extra Zorro. And I can't remember what else I was playing, but I was playing a few other things to just help improve the consistency of the deck. But the events are so good. It's really hard to find things to cut, and I think the problem is lists are rarely bad. They're just bad into the meta you end up playing, right? So, for example, I didn't play any Whitebeard, so any choices I made going into Whitebeard were bad. Any choices I made going into the mirror were very, very good. So let's talk about that now. What were my matchups? Well, round one, I played against Kinemon. I won the die roll and I went second. That really mattered because my opponent saw Okiku, Yamato, and an Odin. So I really needed to go second to win that one. And I was able to take it. Good start to the day. Round two was a Law Mirror. The first of many. I lost the die roll. I believe my opponent decided to go second. And I was able to just cook them. This was the only Law Mirror all day where I actually opened somewhat decent, and I was actually doing like law things, right? Like turn 3/4, I was doing law effect and like all that sort of stuff. Round three, I was against Kinemon. I won the die roll again. So that was the second die roll I won that day, and chose to go second, so that really helped. And I was able to win that one fairly straightforwardly. That one was a fairly straightforward matchup, I believe. Although basically every round went to time. Round four was against a Smoker. This was basically my one relatively free matchup of the day. Not that the player was bad, but like he didn't open particularly well, and of course Law does very well into Smoker. So there was that. Round five, I was against Zoro. I opened very, very poor. Basically no searches. He had pistols for both of my laws I was able to play, so I'm like, okay, well, what can you do about that? And they had 9 beard on curve. And he just had like 2 get counters out of the ass as well. So there was nothing I could do. That was just a matchup where I was never going to win. Round 6, another Law Mirror. My opponent, the one thing I distinctly remember is my opponent misplayed by attacking his leader into this Zoro with a Don on it, and it was 5 into 6, and he was like, oh shit, oops. And I was like, yeah, happens. That was the only misplay. It didn't really matter because I had the counter in hand to protect it, even if he'd done 6 into it, so it actually didn't affect the game, but obviously it felt bad for my opponent. Yeah, that one was just a pretty standard Law Mirror. I saw more good cards. That was it. Round 7, another Law Mirror. This was actually against the guy who won the whole event. So that was cool. Mohammed, very cool dude. Congratulations, dude. He saw better cards than me. We were both just bitching about the Law Mirror the entire time, being like, yeah, there is no skill in this matchup. It's literally who sees more good cards. And he saw more good cards, and he was like, yep, well, hopefully you win your next round, because we both were having a good time with each other, and he wanted me to get top 16. And my final round was against another Law player, another Law Mirror. This one was so stressful because neither of us opened particularly well, but I was able to just about cinch it. It was super, super close because if I hadn't been able to secure the lethal that turn, this was the one I was talking about with the Nami Makino stuff, I would have lost that game, but I was able to secure it just about and scrape in at 16th place into top 16. So, day 2, top 16 matchup, I'm all ready, and I open literally the worst brick of my life against Kinemon, who has chosen to go second. I saw 0 searches game 1, 0 laws, like no top end, like nothing. I was literally, I think it was a starter deck Zoro, a Vista, and then just 2Ks. That was it. And I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this, but it's, nothing was happening. My opponent saw, I believe my opponent's plays were Yamato, Okiku Yamato, Odin, Akos Kid, and I'm like, I can't beat that at all with a hand that bad. Even with a good hand, that's tough to beat. So game 2, again, my opponent saw everything, 3-4 Yamatos, 3-4 Okikus, Odin, Akos Kid. I saw a Dedan, a Nami, and a Bonnie, and believe me, that Bonnie was putting in work, but I mean, there's so much you can do when you're not really seeing a great hand. He had me down to 0 really early just because I didn't have much counter in my hand. So yeah, it just sucked. It was a really bad top 16 match. Obviously my opponent was a very good player. He ended up coming 3rd, I believe. So congratulations to him as well. Fantastic player, really nice guy. It was really funny because both him and the judge who were watching the game were like, dude, that was so rough. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it's fine, it happens. Sometimes your deck just doesn't want to work. It's a card game. Yeah, that's the kind of RNG that happens. It could have swung the other way and I could have opened complete nonsense and it would have felt very bad for him, I can imagine. Obviously, it sucks losing out on basically a 5 grand prize card because nothing my fault at all. Literally an ungodly brick and my opponent seeing everything they needed to see. But it is what it is. I'll get him next time. But there we go. So that is the deck. That is the tournament report. Once again, a shout out to Knudsen for being a goated law player, and shout out to Dr. Beppis for being my chaperone in Milan, for coming with me so I wasn't traveling alone. Believe me, this trip would have sucked ass if I was alone. Overall, though, the event was run pretty well. There were a lot of weird Bandai regulations that they had to like take part in, so we weren't given playmats. Like I wasn't able to play on this for the top 16 mat. We were told no, we can't give you any prizing until you're done. And I was like, okay. So we didn't get any prizing at the end of day 2, even though we all were going to get the same level of prizing as top 32 at bare minimum. So I don't know, I thought that was a bit strange, but anyway. And the tournament started relatively late. But overall, smooth event. Very happy I went. 256 man event. Happy with my performance. And I'm very much looking forward to Birmingham, which is in about 3 weeks as of the time of recording this video. So I'm not sure if I'm going to take Law to Birmingham. I think my overall so my thoughts and feelings about playing Law now in this current format, it's really tough. It's a struggle sim deck. You're playing the tournament on hard mode because this isn't the not to diminish from Cross's achievement for winning Peoria, because obviously the dude is a very good One Piece player. I think it's very clear he's a fantastic One Piece player. But the fact that people didn't really know how to counter Law as well as they do now certainly will have helped him, because the deck is prone to bricking, and having the sort of advantage of your opponent not being 100% sure what to do can lead to the sort of unoptimal decisions that let you average that out, right? Maybe my hand isn't so good. If my opponent's playing but worse, it kind of averages out to being a winnable situation. And that is not the case anymore, and I'm sure you can see results from Law players. It's getting tougher and tougher. The deck is still really, really good. Of course, it won Milan, right? It wasn't me who won it, but it was a Law player who won, and he was a good Law player. But that is fundamentally the thing that sucks about playing Law, is just people are prepared for it, and it's prone to bricking. And in a game where you kind of need to go XO or X1 to guarantee day 2, playing a deck as prone to bricking as Law is really risky. It's one of those things where if it works out for you and you make it to top cut, it should be carrying you, into finals, as long as you don't basically see what happened to me in Brick. I think almost every other Law player won their game. There was a few in the top 16, so that's sort of what you got to bear in mind. My game was just so bad, but generally I should have been winning that, on average. So the deck is still very, very powerful. It's one of those things where you're trading off the ability to, you might do worse in Swiss, but if you scrape in, you'll probably do better in top. It's also a very, very, brain-intensive deck. I had a throbbing headache, and I was absolutely shattered after the day. I think a 9th round was my limit, and that I would have been completely done. I don't think I would have been able to handle it mentally anymore. Playing this deck non-stop, it really takes a toll on you, especially when you're doing things like the mirror match, right? And that's going to be much more common at these upcoming events. So whilst I would still recommend Law, I'm probably not going to play it at Birmingham. I'm probably going to play something else. I'm probably going to play something more fun, because I just want to turn my brain off and have a bit of fun. I'm thinking I might play Zephyr and have a bit of fun there. But anyway, that is it for this deck profile, for this tournament report. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in competitively focused One Piece content, I've been making guides for the OP02 format over on my Patreon, which you can check linked in the description below. I think the content on there is really, really good. So far, there are guides to Zephyr and Smoker, Zoro, Whitebeard, and Ivankov, as well as an OP01 Kid guide. Oh, and also OP02 Kinemon. So there's all those guides up on there. There will probably be a couple more guides for the OP2 format, 1 or 2 going up. I'm thinking I'll maybe do a Law guide, potentially. But I'm polling my patrons, so if you want to have a say, obviously go and check out the Patreon, and you can get that those guides. I think it's a very, very reasonable fee for what it is, and then OP3 will be starting soon after that is the plan. But there we go, that is it. Thank you so much for watching once again. Please do check out that Patreon. I really do appreciate the support, and it feels good to have my 20th top in card games. This is top number 20, and I'm looking forward to moving on to into the 20s and hopefully hitting 30 in the next couple of years. But there we go. Thanks so much again, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.